So we're gonna talk today about 5 different things that you can do to improve your running economy. Running economy is the efficiency at which you run. So if you run backwards, you don't have very good running economy. Maybe for running backwards, but certainly not for running forwards in your race. So there's different kinds of running economy. Now, you can get more efficient by having a gross movement that gets more refined over time. So this would be things like heel striking versus forefoot striking, or your cadence. So if you really want to improve running economy, the best thing that you can do, absolute best, better than strides. First of all, before we jump into the two categories of improving running economy, I want to clarify for you that your body is not dumb. Your body will run with the best economy that it can in a given moment. So for example, if someone is running with a heel strike, it's not bad economy because that's what their body needs to do in order to meet the demands of their run. So someone who's maybe never run before, who's 200 pounds overweight, they might run their first run, land on their heels, like big time landing on their heels. Now, is that good or bad running economy? For them, it's actually good running economy. For them, for the moment, not in the long term. Because in that moment, their body needs to land on the heel because they need all of that time on the ground to support themselves and put force into the ground. As they get stronger, as they get more powerful, they can land on a midfoot, they can have a quicker turnover, they'll become stronger. But in that moment, your body is adapted to doing what it needs to get the job done. So you can think of a couple of elite runners. I think of Paula Radcliffe. Now, up until maybe 10 years or so ago, maybe less, she was still the world record holder in the marathon. And she said it a long time ago. She was the greatest of all time up until recently, you know? And she would run with like this head bob. She'd be running and doing this big head bob, but she would win, and she'd win on the track. She was a great 10,000 meter runner and marathon runner, world record holder, but she's got this like running economy that's kind of all over the place. I also think of 2 others. I think of Jim Ryan back in the 60s and 70s. Now, Jim Ryan, when he's coming down the home straight, his head is bobbing side to side like this. It looks really inefficient, yet he was a world record holder in the 800 meters, 1500, and mile. Interesting, right? Not the best economy, but it was the best economy for them. That's how their body responded to the demands of it. I can also think of Emil Zatopek back in the 50s. And when he would run, it was like he was clawing at the sky, and he'd scrunch his face up, and he'd have his hands like this, and he's just like moving his jaw around. Yet he was Olympic champion again and again and again, world record holder, best in the world. So your economy doesn't have to fit into a cookie cutter standard of what running coaches or biomechanists should say running economy should be. They are the best for you at any given moment. Now, with that said, Paula Radcliffe did work with a running coach for a long time. She was already at the top of the world. She was winning world championships. And she had that head bob. And then she worked on reconditioning that. And in her later years of her marathon career, she got rid of that head bob and became even better. So that is to say that whatever your mechanics are, they are optimal for where you are in that stage of your development. Can you improve them? Absolutely. And will you get improvements in your race times by improving them? The answer is yes in the long term, but it's actually no in the short term. In the short term, when you try to change your mechanics, you try to increase your stride frequency, you'll actually be less efficient, because we know that the most efficient stride that you can have is the one that is self-selected. The most efficient stride you can have is the one that your body will naturally go to when you're not thinking about it. But that's just on the day. So what we do is we condition over time better running mechanics, and then once they get conditioned, you can let it go, not think about it, and that becomes what your new self-selected stride is, and you're more efficient. So we're gonna talk today about 5 different things that you can do to improve your running economy. Now, running economy happens in 2 different categories. You can think of the gross biomechanics, and gross biomechanics are your head bob, like we talked about with Paula Radcliffe, or the side to side with Jim Ryan, or the clawing at the sky and the like chewing at the air candy that Emil Zatopek did. And those are gross biomechanics. It's the way that your musculoskeletal system is moving, the joint angles, the stride rate, the stride length, the stride angle, the twisting at your hips, the twisting at your shoulders, your arm carriage, all of this stuff. Now that's category 1. It's basically the anatomy and the gross biomechanics. But category number 2 is what's going on inside at the cellular level. Now at the cellular level, you can get more efficient as well. You can get more efficient if you're a marathon runner, or an ultramarathon runner, you can get more efficient at burning more fat earlier on and sparing your glycogen. Well, that's a good thing. You can build up more mitochondria. If you have more mitochondria, you can create more energy, especially from oxygen and inputs such as glucose, and you become more efficient. So those have nothing to do with the way that your body's moving, and they have everything to do with what's going on the cellular or even the subcellular, the organelle level. And so we'll talk about 5 ways. Here we go. Number 1, to improve your running economy is that you should run fast. You should run strides. Now, if you have ever read Daniel's Running Formula, Jack Daniels, he wrote this book in the 90s. It was a very good book. It was a seminal book. At the time, I believe it was the best training book out there. I think it's a little bit outdated now, but his principles still stay the same. And one of the best things that has stood the test of time is that he has his runners do what he calls repetition training. Now, repetition training is simply running pretty fast, not a sprint, but just pretty fast for short periods of time, and then taking a break. So if you sprint, if you sprint as hard as you can, unless you're a trained sprinter and can learn to relax. Most people, if we sprint as fast as we can, we're gonna tense up. Our shoulders might get tense, our face might scrunch up, and we're not 100% efficient. And if you just back off of that a little bit to where you're running fast, but you're relaxed, that is a pace that works out to be maybe somewhere around 1 mile to 5K race pace. If you're running faster than that, we're approaching a sprint, 400 meters, even 800 meters. That is fair game. 800 meters maybe is in the cards, but roughly mile pace, 2 mile race pace. At those paces, you are really cooking, especially if you're a marathoner. These paces we don't touch on that often in our easy runs, our long runs, even our interval runs, which we might do at 5K or 10K race pace, or a threshold run or a tempo run, right? So running fast forces you to have better biomechanics. It forces you to. It's really hard to land on your heels, for example, when you're close to sprinting. You have to engage your nerves. So your nerves innervate your muscles and the place where they innervate is called a motor unit. So where that nerve attaches to muscles and then innervates and recruits those muscle fibers to fire, that's a motor unit. And when you're running faster, you recruit more motor units. So you actually train that neural pathway to get more efficient, to recruit the muscle fibers and even the muscle groups that you need in order to run fast. Now, when you do that again and again, you build that neural pathway and you get more efficient. So number 1 is you want to run what I call strides, and you want to do lots of them. I recommend that you do at least, no matter if you're a 5K runner or a marathon or ultra marathon runner, you want to run at least 1 stride per mile run per week, averaged out over the week. And that's kind of a bare minimum. A lot of you are running 2 strides per mile, and we have a couple of runners who are running 2 or 3 strides per mile. But you want to get up to a baseline of about 1, and if you're doing that with significant volume, whatever that is for you, in terms of mileage, and you're equaling, so 50 miles a week, 50 strides per week, you're going to have a good neuromuscular base, because 50 strides times about 100 meters per stride, well, that's 5,000 meters. It's about a little more than 3 miles worth of maybe mile to 2 mile race pace running. Now, that's pretty good, but you get that efficiency built into your body. So that's number 1, strides. Number 2 is you want to build your aerobic base, because remember that efficiency is not just about the gross mechanics, but it's about what's going on the cellular level as well. Now, when you build an aerobic foundation, you build up more aerobic enzymes, you build up more mitochondria, you might build up even more brown adipose tissue, which is mitochondria inside of a certain kind of fat cell. You may shed body fat, you may do all kinds of things that improve your efficiency because you have a bigger engine inside. So we can tweak and tune up the vehicle, and then we can give a better engine to that vehicle. So that would be aerobic training. Number 3 is you want to do running at exactly or very close, plus or minus maybe 10 seconds per mile to your race pace. And it doesn't matter if you're running a 5K or a marathon, whatever that goal race pace is. So you should know what that is. If you have a goal time, figure out what pace that is. And you want to spend some time running at that pace. Now, you don't need to spend time running at that pace early on in your season, because if you do, you're not going to be able, let's say that you want to take an hour off of your marathon, or let's even say a half an hour. When you start training, you're not fit enough to do that. So running at race pace is too fast. And if you start doing race pace training, you're not going to do it at a very high volume because you can't, because you're not fit enough yet. So you only get a little bit of improvement. It would be better to do strides and aerobic base training. This is what I call base training. And then as you get more fit and more fit and more fit, and then when you get to your specific phase of training, about 6 weeks before your race, you really want to hammer on getting exactly race pace and very close to it, a little faster than and a little slower than. And that will increase your efficiency for not just the gross development, not just the internal engine, but for the specific exact demands for the pace that you're going to run on race day, the exact mechanics that you'll need. And that is very useful. But we want to save it until specific training so that you're fit enough to do those workouts when you do them at a high level. Instead of 3 by 1 mile, you can do 3 by 5K if you're a half marathoner or a marathoner. And that is very significant. So that's number 3. Number 4 is you want to improve your weight. Now, if you go out and run a marathon and then look at your time and then wait a week and come back and run a marathon again, but you strap a backpack on with the 25 pounds on it, or 50 pounds on it, or more even, you're gonna run slower, aren't you? You're less efficient. You're way less efficient because you have to carry extra weight, which of course, obviously, right, uses more energy. So our efficiency goes way down. So if you really want to improve running economy, the best thing that you can do, the absolute best, better than strides, better than aerobic development, is improve body composition. Now, if your body composition is already very lean because of a superior diet, then hey, you're gonna work on training. But virtually everybody can improve their diet quite a bit, really quite a bit. And if you look at the body fat percentages of elite runners, and there's a chart of this in your Run Elite book, we look at the average body fat composition of men and women runners, and then men and women elite runners. And they have far less body fat. For the men, it's 5% or below. And for the women, it's 5 to 9%. And we're not gonna go too much into this here. You can make an argument that women should have a higher body fat percentage than men, and that is generally accepted to be true. But at the elite level, they don't. At the very top of the world, they have pretty comparable body fat compositions. Also, to be an elite female runner, like really at the top, you know, the places where women store more fat, we don't see, you know, world record marathon and 5K runners with big stores of fat in those areas, generally. So that's number 4. You want to reduce your weight. And you want to do that healthfully, exclusively through quality of diet. I never want you to calorie restrict. That is a bad idea. You need to be able to recover. You have to fuel your runs. But when we eat foods that are heavy, that are toxic, that are high in fat, high in salt, high in chemicals, high in animal protein, even cooked, it's gonna lead to more weight than raw foods, high in enzymes, high in water, high in fiber. Okay, and number 5, the last one, is the quickest way to improve your running economy like that is, you've heard me say it before, use the bathroom. Because we already talked about reducing your weight. Well, what's the fastest way to reduce your weight? Just go use the bathroom. And it sounds, in a training run, maybe it doesn't matter because you can stop. But in a race, if you have to stop, well, it costs you time. But if you're holding on to an extra 1 pound or 2 pounds of, you know, pee and poo inside of you, well, it's gonna slow you down. Maybe 3 seconds per mile per pound. Now that really adds up over a marathon. So it's more than just like the obvious thing of go use the bathroom before the race, because we all do that. The porta-johns, or the line is really long right before the gun goes off, right? Everybody's trying to do that. But you can reduce that weight in your gut even more, and you can get rid of more of that like hard, dense poo that's in there, honestly, by eating a diet, once again, that's high in fiber, high in water, high in enzymes. And that, my friends, is raw fruits and vegetables. You're gonna do pretty well, pretty dang well, if you eat cooked whole food plants as well. But we start to get into trouble when we have refined foods, and certainly if we have salt in our diet. Well, salt is a poison. We know that if we're out at the ocean, I got the beautiful Caribbean Ocean right over here, and I know that if I go down there and I'm really thirsty and I drink the water, I'm gonna get nice and hydrated, right? It's water. Oh, no, no, no. We know that if you drink salt water, seawater, you're gonna die of dehydration. That's interesting. So we take that water, the seawater, and with the salt in it that we already know is poison for us, and we get rid of the water and extract the salt as sea salt, and then put it on our food and somehow think that that's okay. It's like the hyper concentrated toxic substance. And when you ingest the salt, it's a poison in your body, and your body doesn't want to be poisoned. So what do? You retain water to dilute it, and you try to pee it out. But when you retain that water, that's extra weight that you're carrying. And it's not fair to say, well, you're retaining water and it's hydration that you can use later in the race. That's not true, because that water is there to dilute the salt. So as you lose the salt, you might lose the water, but it's not water that's available to be used to hydrate your body as you're running. So we want to reduce the salt in our diet. That will reduce your body weight, and use the bathroom. Of course, right before your run, but also you want to have really good bowel transit times, really short bowel transit times, and high level of bowel movements as a reflection of the high fiber, high water content, high enzyme foods that you're eating, and then you're gonna have just less weight in you anyway. So those are the 5 things. I hope that you found something useful, interesting there. Let's recap really quick. Number 1, you wanna do strides, and you wanna do lots of them. Number 2 is you wanna do aerobic training, easy running, but lots of it. Number 3 is you wanna run at race pace, but only as you get closer to your race at higher volume. Number 4 is you wanna reduce your body weight healthfully through a superior diet. And number 5 is you wanna clean out that gut and not retain salt. It's kind of the same as the body weight, but it's an instant way that you can improve your running economy. Thank you so much if you're one of our readers who's got the book and left us an awesome review. But if you haven't yet, go ahead and pick up your copy, Run Elite. It's on Amazon right now. It's on Audible right now. Train and think like the greatest runners of all time. If it weren't for you guys, we wouldn't have even made this. So take care, and thank you for making it a success.